Greater Phoenix. We can tell our story differently. A new perspective. A different look. Greater Phoenix A to Z.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when this finds you. Welcome to the Greater Phoenix A to Z podcast. I'm your host, Casey Gilchrist. Joining me on the show today from the GPEC staff is a former Goldman Sachs Securities and Lendings Operations Analyst and a current GPEC Research Analyst, Fiona Onyango. Welcome to the show, Fee.
Thank you.
She joined GPEC in March of 2022 and helped to create the State of Black Business 2.0 report published last August. She has a Master's of Science in International and Development Economics from the University of San Francisco and a Bachelor of Science in Economics from the University of Nairobi. Fun fact, if Fiona could travel anywhere right this minute, it would be a trip to Zanzibar, and she is passionate about gender policy. So we brought Fiona into the conversation today because today's show is all about Black excellence. We're welcoming executives from across the Valley to share their insights on Black leadership and Black business in Greater Phoenix. The last 2 years, GPEC has published a report in collaboration with the State of Black Arizona, the Arizona Center of Economic Progress, Black Philanthropy Initiative, Black Chamber of Arizona, and the Center for the Future of Arizona. The report quantifies data around Black-owned businesses and the entrepreneurship in Greater Phoenix. Fun facts, just in general, to set the stage, the Black community is the state's fastest growing demographic with 33% growth from 2010 to 2020, heightening the importance of investing in the community to allow Arizona to reach its full potential. There are major knowledge gaps in data about entrepreneurship at the national level. The first two State of Black Business reports attempt to fill those gaps here in Arizona and create new recommendations for growth and methods of information gathering. Given that, we wanted to invite an expert who's very deeply entrenched into this data. So we brought the one, the only, Teniqua Broughton, Executive Director of the State of Black Arizona and a key partner in the creation of this report. Teniqua is an executive that provides nonprofit governance and leadership consulting through her company, Verve Simone Consulting. She's lived in Phoenix for the last 23 years and is very involved in arts and culture. She's active with the Arizona Opera and founder of the Monarch Society Council at the Desert Botanical Garden and the chair of the Western States Arts Federation. Now, y'all, she is a multiple award winner. She's decorated. So I'm not going to list all of the awards that she has received, so you can check out her bio in the description. But some key ones, she has received the Titan 100 Award, the MLK Servant Leadership Award, and many, 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 many more. So welcome to the show, Teniqua.
Oh, thank you, Casey. Thank you.
All right. Since we have two newbies on the podcast, we decided to play a little game so that our listeners could get to know you better. So we're going to do a staple here on the podcast, Two Truths and a Lie, where you give us two facts about yourself and one lie, and I have to guess what it is. So I'm going to start with Fiona.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I know you pretty well.
You think you do?
I think I do.
Okay. I have never been a bridesmaid. I prefer camping holidays to beach holidays, and I never had chicken pox as a child.
Which one's the lie?
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever had chicken pox. Am I right?
You're right.
Yes.
Ding,
okay.
ding, Casey.
Ding. Do I have a chime?
Casey.
Okay. All right, Teniqua, what are yours?
All righty. I was named after a legendary jazz vocalist. I have a coloring book, or I've lived in Gilbert, Arizona.
Those are all very good and all very plausible. Fiona, do you have any ideas what could be the lie? Any? I think it'd be really cool if you had a coloring book. So I'm hoping that one's true because I love to color.
I do. It's the way that I manage any anxiety or step away. So I do have a coloring book.
Okay.
I'd go with the Gilbert.
The Gilbert? I think it's a different city.
Ding, 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 ding,
Ding, ding, ding, ding.
I have not lived in Gilbert, Arizona.
Where have you lived in Arizona?
Tempe, Mesa, and I currently live in Phoenix.
Awesome. I think we're all Phoenix residents at the moment. So that's good to hear. I also heard that you are a former track star.
She's a runner, she's a track star.
Yes. I ran at Arizona State University. I transferred from the University of Kentucky, quarter miler. So it has been an honor just as a little child to go through running summer track programs to receiving a full scholarship to go to two different universities.
Yeah, and it's D1. That's a huge feat. Fiona, did you play any sports growing up?
I tried a couple, and then I ended up running something similar to 5Ks from time to time.
For fun?
Yes, for the medals, for the, high school.
Y'all are good. I think of running as like a chore and a punishment, because when I played volleyball and running was, okay, you got in trouble.
But you had to still do some running and working out with the volleyball.
Yeah, but it wasn't enjoyable for me.
Well, I would say this. Practice, even in running can be boring, but it's that competition piece that really keeps you moving. So you gotta kind of fight through that pain. But I find that people find different ways to enjoy running or walking or treadmilling or cycling or biking, however they need to. So you just gotta find the thing that get you a little bit of oomph when you do it.
Yeah, for me it's music. So I have to have a good playlist all the time. What's your go-to running song?
Oh gosh.
What gets you pumped? What's in your earbuds before your event?
If I would say gosh, she's just gonna expose me. I love T.I. So
T.I.
I am a Georgia girl.
Atlanta.
So if you want to get me pumped, that is my theme song.
I love it.
My trainer used to know I will work out with that. So if you want the best out of me, any music from him, I like trap music. So.
Yes. Likewise, I'm from the Southeast. So for me, it's Blunt Blowin' by Lil Wayne.
Okay.
That's what gets me going the entire time. What about you, Fiona?
Level Up by Ciara.
Ooh. Okay, that's good. That's getting us going right now when I think about it. I'm like, okay.
And she's coming out with new music, I heard.
Is she?
Yeah, she leaked a new song that's something about the girls or something like that.
Okay.
So we have to keep our eyes. But enough talk about track and music. We've warmed up. Let's get into the State of Black Business report. So the original report led to the formation of a consumer-based directory, Blacks Friday, and worked toward creating a comprehensive list of Black-owned businesses in Arizona. Teniqua, given your involvement into this report, what did you see in the market that led to the creation of the State of Black of Arizona?
So a lot of things actually came out of the first report in March 2021 and then the second report in August. And I'm actually going to share a few things because I think one of the things that's important for people to know is that, well, the data might seem daunting or negative. It really was actionable data. And I'm going to keep saying that, and that's in our mission, actionable data. It was about creating opportunities when you see challenges. We understand our percentage, and with that, we want to make sure that everybody understands the equation has to have everyone in it. So a few outcomes of the report and the work is that Ashley LaRousse has been working on Blacks Friday a little well before we had launched the report. So the last few years, she has definitely been working across the state and scraping it right now because unfortunately we lost a lot of businesses, but about 1,200 businesses are in her database. And the hope is that as more businesses pour into that, into her directory, we are able to actually take that and move forward with a visualization of a database that will show in real time our ecosystem. So that's the exciting part. And so we're in the middle of, I like to say, layers of figuring out how we can do geospacing, mapping, as well as looking at the business intelligence piece of it. So that's one thing that State of Black Arizona is doing in partnership that keeps us in the data space around our work. So a few other things that have come out that I'm excited about is the city of Tempe launched its BIPOC manufacturing program, which was based in the knowledge points from our first report. And it was very much about there were little to no manufacturing businesses owned by Black owners. And so to date, they have about 26 different businesses in the program, and the State of Black Arizona is helping to support that overall program with BIPOC data in the process. Also, two other really great things that are happening, I say as a result of the report, is Millionaire Mastermind Academy. A lot of people may know her as Velma Trayham.
She's
from
on the
Thinkzilla.
podcast. Yeah, she's coming up after you.
Oh, Dr. Trayham. So she actually is launching in April Impact AZ 2025, and that is a supplier diversity readiness accelerator program for small business owners over the next 3 years. So again, a response to the report and seeing that, and I think tying and aligning that and making sure that State of Black Arizona can help with the tracking of that for business owners. And then the last thing is most recent that most people may not know, but I think there is an Arizona economic ecosystem coalition. It was recently created to really establish strategic partnerships and collective resources that should close the gap between our wealth and measurable opportunities to sustain impactful change. And so it's a coalition of some business owners, some CDFI leaders, some nonprofit leaders who are working to do that. And so that just launched, and it will be exciting to see how they work to move forward. I like to say data-driven change.
That's awesome. You have to be really proud of all of the efforts. I mean, it sounds like your hands in a lot of different things.
Well, I had to remind people that while the economic development centers a lot of what we do, we have 4 other areas. So we have infrastructure, we have healthcare, we have civic life, we have education. And so while they all connect with pieces, this is just one of many relationships we have with the community. But I'm just excited because I think when we started talking about doing this report, it really was about figuring out what was the ecosystem, what currently it is, what does it lack, or is it strong? And I think that the report really was a sweet spot for the community, everyone to say, oh, let me pay attention to a little bit more to understand what is happening specifically in the Black community around this. And it's really helped us, I think, tell our story better. Mm-hmm. It's helped other people understand, I think, the business of their business better because the numbers, that data really is driving what we see is happening or not. So when people tell me, oh, Teniqua, I already know, or we already know, well, how are you making sure that what you know is being applied to how you execute the strategy of your work, or how you make sure that those who are decision makers are able to do better in their decision making because of that? And that's really what we are here for, is to be that platform to synthesize that for people.
And just to sum just a little bit, I think we are all in the business of doing something about it, not just outlining the negative things or what is not happening. It's what can we do to make a change in Greater Phoenix and in Arizona as a whole? So with that, Teniqua, how do you feel about the progress of State of Black as an institution?
Oh, the progress. Well, I would say many of you who know or may not know, I am the founding executive director, so I was there in writing the actual paperwork to submit it to the IRS. And so I know where we have come from, literally ground up, scaling it. And I would say there's so much more vision to see. So what I will say is that this work has shown us how we can serve our mission very well. And with that, it's been reflected in how we've been able to increase our budget, but also it's been reflected in the partnerships. And I tell people all the time that while we work to impact, the lives of Black Arizonans, this is for everybody to participate and support, because there is a level, an intersection, and/or should be, where you are working or you are interacting with people who look like me. Mm-hmm. And with that, I have found that our partnership, just like GPEC, has been able to enrich so many more lives because of our report. Like when we started, I like to say, I wanted all of this data, and I loved it. I was like, here's a list of everything that I want. And there was a moment of laughter, and okay, Teniqua, that doesn't even exist, but yeah. But I say that to say that this partnership platform formed so many more partnerships. And that's what happens in all of the areas of our work. So as an organization, we are responding to the needs by understanding that if we don't put this actionable data in front of people, the challenges cannot be addressed by opportunities. We have to look at it glass half full. I'm putting it in front of you so that you can get motivated about what you can do, not about getting depressed about it. Because people tend, and mostly we all do, respond to things that are on fire, things that have urgency. And so saying that everything is great when we know there's work to do is not a realistic lens. But this organization has grown exponentially, especially in the last 3 years, just from the ability to put out, I think, better data reports and link that to organizations who are going to do the action. And we support them along the way so that when we really get to the place where we want to develop a dashboard, there's something that people can follow in each of those areas.
It sounds like I know Tempe, Thinkzilla, GPEC are great partnerships. Are there any gaps in audiences that you hope, like perhaps listeners of this podcast, is there anyone that you have a desire to reach or an industry you hope to reach more of?
Well, I do think there are gaps. I think there are gaps that we may be looking at data. You know, Fiona and I are always talking monthly about this in a team. But I still think the small business owner really has to understand the value of how this data-driven report of this work allows them to tie its assets to its own development within their infrastructure. It may not seem like they all, and again, I'm generalizing that, might understand that how does this apply to me, but it applies to you when you understand your numbers. It helps you know the business of your business better. And so our hope is that if you understand trends and opportunities, you can operate differently. You can show up differently. So there's an opportunity for more learning and access. I would also say we're still in the space where we're need more conversation with policymakers and those who are decision makers. I've had great conversations about our first report in late 2021 with the Ways and Means, the House Ways and Means Committee about the importance of aspects of the report. But I would say that it still has to get in the hands of people who are making decisions so that they can make better decisions about it. I don't foresee that we have it all covered, and it's great. I think those of us who are consciously aware and doing the work see it and access it and are on top of it, but we still have to get to the general public, not just the ones who are the business owners, but also the ones who want to be business owners and to understand, not necessarily the hurdles, but understand what is the bag of ingredients that you're going to be faced with so that you can move forward a lot better. And that's really what it is. Not to be daunting to start a business, but that starting a business isn't easy, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit.
Yeah, where can people find the report?
So the report is on our website.
Okay, what's that?
So State of Black Arizona, all spelled out .org. If you go to the main page and you see a nice blue image, I think it's the GPEC image that we pulled together, and it has the State of Black Business Report. You can click the link, and on there it has both reports. It has also the convenings that we had and any of the one sheet specifically that we've done with our Black Changemaker series with ASU Education Outreach and Student Services Department, where we did Black buying and giving power, as well as we did, what was the second one sheet? I can't remember. On Fiona, I forgot that quickly. You don't remember?
No.
Okay.
Well, what are you up to next?
What are we up to next? Okay. Well, we actually just started our conversation, like 3 weeks ago, talking about what we want to do. So what I can share with you is, first of all, we are going to put out a new report. in August of 2023 during a Black Business Month. We want to push it out a little bit earlier. We did it later in the month, but we want to push it out earlier. And what I can share with you is we want to do some updates because now the new American Community Survey from 2021 has come out. So we want to be able to provide some updates. We weren't able to do that in the 2.0. We want to focus on workforce readiness. So I'm excited about that. That was on our docket last time. We did a little bit of that. Trends for growth. So this is the opportunity piece where we want to look at trends for growth in the next 5 to 10 years, which allows any kind of thought around a coalition or ecosystem or even the CDFIs. How do I move forward with this work?
Can I interrupt you? For our listeners who might not know what CDFIs are, can you say that?
That is good. Yeah. I've been using acronyms all week. So Community Financial Development Institutions.
Okay, perfect.
Good question,
yes.
Casey. And then we want to do some breakouts. So this year, we want to have our full report with those areas covered. And I don't know, sometimes Fiona, when she gets into her research space, we might come up with something else to surprise the reader. So I don't know what that is, but when she gets into it. But we want to do breakouts in 3 areas: the CDFIs, our VCs, which are venture capitalists, and then supplier diversity outcomes and infrastructures that need to be addressed to move this work forward.
Well, it sounds like you and Fiona are going to be busy over the next few months.
Yeah, mostly Fiona, but
Fiona, are you ready?
Can you believe it? She said it out loud.
It's happening now. There's no getting out of it.
But we are excited because there's so much that has come out of SBAC 2.0, and we are looking forward to 3.0. So stay tuned, people. Stay tuned.
Awesome. And Teniqua, where can people find you and keep up with your great work?
Again, going back to the State of Black Arizona's website, State of Black Arizona, all spelled out, Arizona.org. If you go to the left of the homepage, you can click on our newsletter, which will allow you to get information, as well as I think right below that click is a way to contact us, which will be an email that goes to our info, and I will be able to access that if there's a question that I need to address.
Awesome. Well, you kicked off this podcast with so much fire. I'm so excited to dive into some other future guests. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're so busy. We greatly appreciate your insights.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you to GPEC just for investing in this work in the community. It's definitely been, I think, something that we will keep to see in fruition in the years to come.
We look forward to supporting that. Fiona, any last parting thoughts?
Actually, I have a question, Teniqua.
Oh, she got more questions for me today.
No, it's just...
It's a fun one?
It's a fun one. If you had to choose money, power, or fame, what would you choose?
So I would say, to be honest, so money, you can have all the money and still be miserable, so no. You can be famous and still be miserable, so no. So my thought is power, because I feel like my voice is my superpower, how I use it. But I think power in the space of understanding the strategy of how you're going to utilize it and the calculation of who and what it's utilized for.
That's a great way to end it. What about you, Fee? What would you choose?
I would choose money all day, any day.
Money can bring you power.
Yes, they go hand in hand. Money and power. So
money. Could, but I still know people who have money with no respect. So
that's true.
Just saying.
That's true.
Okay. Show me the money.
But you could have the money and just be happy and go off in a corner and don't have to worry about doing the next 3.0 report. So
yes.
I think I would choose money as well. I do like power, but I do think that I'm somewhat of an introvert. So if I could have all the money and be on my own island and never have to worry about anything, I would be very happy.
See, I thought about it like that too. And then I was like, I might get bored after
Oh, no, I'm
so
inviting friends.
long.
You're coming along. Fiona will be there.
As long as I can get rid of them too at the same time.
Yes.
So that will be good. So yeah, it's all like there's a and
Yes.
but to it.
Yes.
So
It depends on the day.
I would say I would do money if it was another choice. I don't need the fame.
Yeah,
I'm good on
fame,
that
I'm
one.
good. I don't want people to know who I am. All right. Great question, Fiona. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us. Listeners, after a short break, I'll be joined by Dr. Velma Trayham for the next segment of our Black Excellence episode. We'll be diving into DE&I in the workplace and why diversity makes business better. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Greater Phoenix A to Z podcast. Today we are discussing Black excellence in Arizona, and I'm joined by someone who expanded her business here to Phoenix in 2021. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, economic empowerment specialist, and CEO of Thinkzilla Consulting Group, helping organizations create a positive economic impact through cultural diversity. She's also a best-selling author. Her book, When God Says Go, has sold more than 1 million copies. And she's also an impactful mentor, working with more than 5,000 minority women and business owners over the last 3 years alone. Dr. Velma Trayham, welcome to the show. Do you sleep at night at all?
Thank you for having me. I do sleep at night.
That's good. I don't know how you do it.
A little bit. I get a little sleep.
That's awesome. I'm going to need to know how you prioritize your to-do list every single day because you are such a busy woman in many facets. So thank you for joining us. I look forward to letting our listeners know a little bit more about you.
Awesome. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, so let's start with at the beginning. Let's talk about Thinkzilla. How did you found the organization? Why did you found your organization?
So I founded Thinkzilla 10 years ago. I cannot believe it's been 10 years, but I founded the organization on the heels of 3 failed businesses and 2 sold businesses.
Oh, wow.
So going through the process of building companies and bootstrapping my business and learning all of the elements to building a successful company, people started coming to me, hey, can you help me to build my company? How did you do this? Can you help me to do that? And I thought, you know what? This is a problem that we can solve. It's a problem. I identified a problem. When I started Thinkzilla, home of the big ideas, great results, and I know that I wanted to create something big, I initially thought, you know what, I'm going to name the company Godzilla, but I couldn't trademark Godzilla. So I said, you know what, I need to come up with something else. So I came up with Thinkzilla. So that's how I started Thinkzilla in Houston, Texas. I'm a Houston native.
Okay.
I started the company as a marketing and a public relations strategy firm. 3 years into the company, I started to get a lot of interest from public and private companies. They were seeing the community engagement programs that we were building for mega pastors across the country, and they were interested. And from there, we started to build community engagement programs. And so marketing and public relations became how we pushed our clients' program forward.
That's awesome. And I feel like it's transitioned more into the DE&I space. Can you talk about what kind of pivoted, your focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, a large part of that is community engagement. So before diversity became a buzzword, we were doing the work. We were already doing the work. We were helping organizations create impact through helping them with their hiring practice, helping them to attract more minority business owners in their pipeline. So when the whole diversity became a buzzword, I'll say that, I said, you know what? We're already operating in this. I believe that diversity is the result of doing the right thing. And we were already doing it. And so we started to pivot more as the term became more relevant, like, okay, we've got to do more. And so we started to build diversity, equity, and inclusion programs for our clients, helping them to diversify their organizations, their boards, their messaging, their branding. And so that's how we kind of started pivoting in the DE&I space.
Yeah, and I've very clearly remember, when I started seeing all of these hires, DE&I officer, director of DE&I, and of course it all came at the heels of, the George Floyd murder. I feel like that really put DE&I in the spotlight.
And he was a good friend of mine, a home friend.
But I just know that a lot of organizations and companies really took a look at themselves. What are your thoughts on the importance of continuing that work? Because I feel like in some ways it's kind of taken I don't want to say a backseat, but it's not I don't see it as often on LinkedIn and like all of these announcements around DE&I. Why is it important to continue that conversation in corporate America? Let's focus on that. And are there examples that you can bring up where people are continuing to make change?
The first thing is there are positive outcomes when you do the right thing. And when I think about some of these companies that, they've kind of taken the back seat, as you're mentioning, but those are the companies that are becoming more and more irrelevant. Mm-hmm. If companies want to continue to grow at a lightning speed pace, which is everything now is technology, everything now is innovation. If they want to continue that growth, they're going to have to incorporate DE&I. Mm-hmm. Equity is important. Having a diverse workforce is important. There is no way you can have a customer target base and you not look the way your customers are, or you don't have the representation of the audience that you're looking to reach. Mm-hmm. People are no longer buying into brands. They're buying into stories. They're buying into people. And that's the important thing here. So things are not the way they used to be. They've changed. Mm-hmm. And it's the right thing to do. And it's the result of doing the right thing. And we're seeing companies that are diverse excel. Mm-hmm. We're seeing them grow. We're seeing them become more innovative. We're seeing them create structure that is just amazing.
Yeah. And people want to join their corporation or organization because they want to be a part of that movement. I know when we meet with companies at GPEC, the first question is, what's your workforce look like? And in my mind, sometimes I'm like, well, what does your company look like? What is your brand? How do you attract talented workforce? Because people aren't just going to want to work for your company these days because you pay a good amount of money. I mean, that's important, don't get me wrong, but it's also, how are you making an impact? People my age, they want to be a part of organizations that are diverse and have different voices at the table. I know that you've also recently launched a scorecard that kind of helps companies understand where they're at in the DE&I space. Can you elaborate more on that?
Our proprietary DE&I scorecard, we actually launched it in 2021. Help our clients to improve DE&I outcomes based on research, data, best practices, and organizational goals. So far, we've had over 500 corporations and some being government entities use this to create their strategic plan. Mm-hmm. We've had them use this to understand the things that they don't know. A lot of times when people get into DE&I, there are so many key performance indicators. They don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do. And this scorecard will help them to understand where they score low and the areas that they're performing well in. Mm-hmm. And it kind of helps them to understand that whole landscape.
Awesome. And then your team will come in, say they score low on a particular indicator, to develop a plan around that to improve the score over time.
Yes, we can help them with their strategic plan. We can help them to build a program around that. We can help them to track their program. We can help them to track the data. We can help them to, just make a robust program that will yield the results they need.
Awesome. And a few of my colleagues had the opportunity to attend the United Diversity Business Summit last year, and I heard nothing but great things about it. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the United Diversity Business Summit and the importance of supplier diversity in corporations?
When I actually expanded my company here, obviously Arizona is an amazing place. It's progressive. It's just an amazing place. One of the areas that I thought we could do more of is engaging our minority business community and bridging the gap with the business community and corporations that are looking to engage these minority suppliers to do business with them. Oftentimes, there is a disconnect with entrepreneurs and corporations or government. Entrepreneurs congregate with entrepreneurs. Corporate people congregate with corporate people. And while there may be resources available for entrepreneurs, I hear we cannot find minority businesses to give the resources to or to award these contracting opportunities. And it's simply because there is a disconnect. So the United Diversity Business Summit was created to bring everyone together, to bring diversity, to bring resources to the underrepresented communities, and to really shed light on what's going on and what we could do better to make Arizona a better place.
Awesome. I love that. And where can people attend? Is this an annual event? Are you planning the next United Diversity Business Summit for 2023?
I am planning the next United Diversity Business Summit. The date is September the 15th, 2023. This will actually be the third year.
Awesome. Well, if you're interested, I'm sure you can find Velma. We'll make sure to get her socials at the end of the episode. But for those of you who are interested in participating this year, hopefully we can make it the biggest one yet.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Let's speak that into existence.
Yes. You touched on something in your feedback that you were just sharing with us, and that's the perceptions of Arizona. You're not from Arizona originally, so I really want to understand what your perceptions were before moving or expanding your business into Arizona. What caught your radar about Phoenix?
Okay, well, we're going to just tell the truth, okay?
Yes,
I'm going to just
absolutely.
tell the truth, all right? Arizona does not have the best reputation when it comes to being diverse.
Yep.
I mean, come on, we're talking about Phoenix being the 5th largest city. And in the entire state of Arizona, where there is less than 5% Black people here, that is a huge problem. And I had friends that lived here once upon a time and they moved away because the reputation, it wasn't all that good. I got to be technically honest. But I'm a problem solver. And when I heard about the opportunity to come to Arizona to help change the landscape here when it comes to diversity, I thought, you know what? This place has potential to change. We're on this earth to solve problems. So I thought, all right, this is going to be quite a challenge, and I'm up for the challenge. And so while everyone's saying, you are crazy, you're going to Arizona, it's hot there, they're racist, all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, you know what? Well, that's an even bigger reason I'm going to go to Arizona, because I'm not going to be hot and not solve a problem, okay? So fast forward, being here, the state is progressive, but I believe that we can do more. I'm excited to see the growth of the state. Lots of opportunity, lots of corporations and companies moving here. I'm just excited to be here. And there's much work to be done.
I agree.
But we're starting somewhere.
I had a similar experience to you when I told my friends and family that I was moving to Arizona. They said, why? Why are you going out there? They were like, we'll make sure that you have a spot back in Virginia when things don't work out for you, because they were just set on the perception of Arizona. Yep. And when I arrived here, I will say my experience was the exact opposite. I found a really great community of friends very quickly. And the great thing about Greater Phoenix is there's so many new people moving here daily. And so everyone is in the same position of landing here, not having friends. I mean, a lot of people don't. And so everyone knows what they're going through, and they're like, come join my friend group or what have you. And so I was very fortunate to find my core group of friends very quickly.
You know what? Me too. In fact, I didn't even go home for the holidays.
Really?
I stayed here in Arizona.
That's a testament.
I have amazing friends here, and it's sisterhood. It's amazing. So I absolutely love it.
We're so glad that you're here too. And I'm glad to hear that your experience was different than what the perception kind of leads you to. And that's something that GPEC, what we're hoping to change, is change our story and let people know that it is a diverse community and a welcoming community as well. Because like I said, just a year ago, that was the perception of people on the East Coast, when I told them that I was moving here. And in your experience, we touched on Atlanta. How does Phoenix differ from Houston and Atlanta?
Obviously, the weather
Yes.
is absolutely amazing. Being from Houston, it's green. And the mountains here in Arizona is just absolutely beautiful. Arizona is a place to raise children. I love it.
Are there any unique differences between doing business in Houston and Atlanta versus Arizona?
I think there are a lot of more opportunities here in Arizona. Texas is a very conservative state, like Arizona, so there's not a whole lot in difference.
Okay, alrighty. So, final question. I like to ask this to those who I admire and who inspire me, in hopes that our listeners can be inspired by you. And that's, what advice would you give to young Velma, who doesn't? I know for me, I'm speaking about myself. When I was 16, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I didn't know what challenges lied in front of me. Didn't know what life had to give. So, what advice would you give to your younger self?
To never allow how you start to be part of how you end, and to understand that we were put here to solve problems. You are not junk. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter how you started. It doesn't even matter what you started with. All that matters is solving problems. Never give up, and to understand that you were created for more.
I love that. That's a great thing to end on, a great sentiment to end on. So, Velma, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on our show, hearing your insights. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but where can listeners keep up with you? What are your social handles? Where can people get involved with Thinkzilla if they're interested?
I am on LinkedIn. Velma Trayham. Thinkzilla is on LinkedIn as well. Thinkzilla Consulting Group. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram.
All right. We'll be sure to leave all the links in the description of this podcast. So thank you so much. It was such a delight to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Next up on the show, we'll be speaking with Mr. Jeff Barton. I joined Jeff at the Phoenix City Hall to talk about navigating through difficult challenges and being a Black leader in municipal government. We'll be back shortly. We're back with part 3 of our 4-part Greater Phoenix A to Z episode on Black excellence. And I have the good fortune of being joined by Mr. Jeff Barton, Phoenix City Manager. Jeff was appointed city manager in October 2021, joining the city manager's office as deputy city manager right at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. His 21-year career with the city of Phoenix started in 1999 as an internal auditor in the city auditor's department. In the years that followed, he held a variety of roles that focused on the city's sound financial stewardship, including multiple auditing positions, management assistant, and deputy budget and research director. Jeff, you're a busy guy. It's so lovely to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, Casey.
All right. So I've chatted with you before, and I know you are not originally from Phoenix. You're a fellow East Coaster.
I am.
What brought you to Phoenix?
My wife. Yes, my wife and I met when we were at Morehouse and Spelman. Okay. And so my wife was raised in Mesa. She's originally from Gary, Indiana. But her whole family migrated to Arizona for a better opportunity. Mm-hmm. I met her my junior year at Morehouse in 1994, and we've been together ever since.
Oh, that's really sweet. And you're from Philly.
I am.
So I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll be back next year.
Are you bruised still?
I'm damaged. It hurt bad.
I know. I'm wondering where your QB is going.
My QB's going nowhere.
He's staying in Philly?
Of course he is.
Okay.
We're going to pay him. Man's going to get the bag.
That's going to be a pay increase.
Oh, yeah, he's going to get the bag.
Okay.
We're going to lose some other people to pay him, but...
Well, you lost your DC. It's coming to Arizona.
Yeah, but he didn't really do much in this game.
In the second half, it was terrible.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
All right, let's get back to the podcast. We could talk football forever. So you took your leadership role with the city of Phoenix, joining the city manager's office at the beginning of March 2020.
I did.
Like right when... you know what, hit the fan.
I did.
So how did you navigate a seemingly insurmountable challenge?
You know, it was interesting because when I came downstairs, which was what we call the 12th floor from budget and research, I came to the 12th floor as deputy city manager. At that time, we had just finished actually the trial budget. Well, we thought we had the trial budget, and then COVID hits, and we had a $56 million surplus. A week after that, we had a $26 million projected shortfall just because of what COVID was doing. And so when I was thinking that I was going to have the opportunity to replace myself as budget director, Ed said, no, you've got to do both. So for 9 months, I was deputy city manager and budget director. But what I think the thing that allowed me to really succeed in that position and during that time, I'd been in budget and research for a long time, and unfortunately, the 2000s weren't great for the city, and we saw a lot of reductions because of recessions and economic, growth or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't panic. And I think that's one of the things I was trying to communicate to the council during that time is let's not panic. We have time to figure this out. Mm-hmm. We don't have to have all the answers today. But I also didn't want to overreact or overcorrect. And so what I did, I created 3 different budgets that year. And so we were managing the council on a weekly basis to those 3 different projections. I had an extreme version, a moderate version, and then just the baseline version. And so we were constantly working with the council, and I had complete plans on how we would, if we got to the worst case, what we were going to do to balance. And then we got the Coronavirus Relief Fund in that same time frame. And so I read the fine print that nobody else had seen across the country that said that, you could use the Coronavirus Relief Fund to offset public safety expenses, and they're all assumed to be eligible. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I can just replace public safety costs and we have no deficit.
Oh, wow.
And then we developed a strategic plan. We were the first in the country to develop a strategic plan. GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, the Treasury, and all kinds of other folks were then looking to us to figure out how to set these plans up. And how to get council to approve them. And so that's how it worked.
It sounds like you navigated the challenge really well, but were there any unforeseen challenges that came up, and how did you manage that?
Yeah, I think there were always those. One, it was political, right? I mean, even though we had a pandemic, we also had the political nature of masks on, masks off, vaccine, no vaccine. And so we had to navigate that because we're in the political world. Also understanding that some residents didn't want vaccines, didn't want masks, didn't want people to work from home. So I think we had to navigate all those different things. As a government, historically, we were never one to be able to telework. COVID forced us to telework, and I think it was a good thing because that was something to keep our employees safe. But it also brought us into the new age of work, of the workforce, and we were able to demonstrate that we could work remotely. So I think that was one big hurdle, just trying to navigate the employees.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a pre-Phoenix or a Phoenix pre-COVID and a Phoenix post-COVID?
Oh, definitely.
What is that? How would you describe it?
I think a lot of it is just the ghost town, like seeing that there aren't a lot of people in cubes. And that's different. In the first couple of days, it was eerie, just walking the halls and not seeing people around because we didn't really go home. The 12th floor, we were here pretty much through the whole thing, as were a lot of other folks. I don't want to disparage anybody. Our garbage drivers, our police officers, firefighters, they were out there every single day. Yeah. But we did have professional staff that had the luxury of working from home. So I think the one thing is that the telework piece. I think the other thing is just the pace. There's an expectation that things are just going to happen much faster. And I think part of that is, though, it's just the evolution of the city as well.
Yeah. And I've noticed that even in the pandemic, Phoenix as a city grew.
We did.
And it's still growing. It's still projected to grow so far into the future. Yeah. How are you kind of managing that as, the leader of the city?
I think the one thing for me, it was, when we were going through all of that is learning that we were always going to grow, but how you manage the growth. We were always very short-term view, in my opinion, because of the term of our elected officials. So we often think not longer than 4 years out. And so as budget director, I was able to see historically how those short, myopic decisions affect us longer term. So I was able. Sorry, I banged on the table, making my own drum noise. So I realized that we need to do more long-term projections and make decisions on a longer-term basis. And so those were some of the things that I focused on in those early days of COVID and working with the council and getting them to understand the need to think longer.
Yeah, and I think it's paying off. I mean, we do economic analysis all the time at GPEC, and it's very evident that, Phoenix is anticipated to grow at least over the next decade with the influx of new people coming. So I'm excited about that. I'm happy to be here and be a part of that.
Yeah, and the thing I'm most excited about is, to be honest, during all of that, we didn't cut one position, didn't lay anybody off, didn't cut employee compensation, didn't cut services to the community. Instead, we added compensation, we added programs, we added services. So I think that's a good thing. And we're probably the only major city in the country that can say that.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely not challenge that at all. So switching gears a little bit, although Greater Phoenix itself is a very diverse region or metro, from a population standpoint and demographic standpoint, And we're very welcoming and friendly. I would say that. I think that there are striking gaps and significant opportunities for public, private, nonprofit organizations to elect or promote more diverse talent at the leadership level. Can you share your experience being one of the very few Black leaders in municipal government? Have you faced any challenges? What's your experience been?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's this expectation that you got your job because of the color of who you are versus what you bring to the table. And I think, for me, my track record speaks for itself. I think people know what I've done for the city and the things that I'm recognized for, not just here, but nationally even. I think the other thing that is a little bit hard to sometimes put into words is there's an expectation that because I'm Black, that I'm going to do certain things just for Black people. And it's like, I'm the city manager of a city of 1.7 million people. I'm everybody's city manager. Now, am I going to try to pull other people that look like me into positions or get them exposed to things that they weren't? Of course. But I do that for everyone based on their ability and their skills and their talents. We can do better. We can always do better. I mean, we don't have many, African-American directors. We don't have a lot of female directors. And so I think the city has always tried to do the right thing in those areas, but there's always room to grow. The council a few years ago approved a diversity, equity, and inclusion director position. We're still trying to fill that position. I think because of COVID, a lot of things preempted us from being able to fill it. So I think that position will have a huge impact on our ability to kind of make sure the organization internally and externally resembles our community.
Yeah. And what advice would you give? I mean, I hate to say advice, but how do you think the business community can do more in that space of having more representation on a board or in a leadership position within an organization?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that. It's looking for opportunities to get people exposed, giving folks an opportunity to have a platform to be seen, to diversify their skill set and their talents. I think one thing that we also have historically done, and Black folks in government in particular, we sometimes get put into niche roles, human services, housing. It's rare that you see us in roles of CFO, budget director, and things like that, because those aren't the roles that we're generally seen or put into. So I would, tell and encourage folks to look for opportunities that are outside of those niche areas. The business community, I think they've got lots of folks that have a lot of talent, a lot of skill. Generally speaking, they don't look at government as an opportunity. But the city of Phoenix it's 15,000 employees, an $8 billion all-in budget. We're a Fortune 500 company. So there's plenty of opportunity here for people to kind of excel and to scratch almost any itch you want, because we pretty much have everything under the sun that you could be involved in.
And you're very successful. You've been at the city 20 plus years. How do you encourage others who kind of want to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I just spoke to our group of new employees today. We had new employee orientation. So as city manager, I get a half hour to actually go and engage those employees. What I tell everyone is, don't sell yourself short. There's always room to improve. The city has a great tuition reimbursement program. We've got great blue card money that you can use for seminars to diversify your skill. But the other thing is, I always tell people, every time a position opens, try to put your name on a position to look for something else to do. Don't get stale. Now, I also tell people it's measured. I also tell people not to just jump because of a title or a position or money, because that can ruin you by jumping too quick before you're ready to actually hold that position. But again, the city's great about encouraging people to kind of diversify their skill set and diversify their talent pool. So that's what I always tell folks. Look what's out there. What is it that you're interested in? For me, I was fortunate. Started in audit, went to budget and research. Those two departments, they actually gelled and meshed with what I like to do and the way my brain works. So I didn't really have to go anywhere beyond that until I came to this department.
Yeah. And how do you stay sharp?
For me, I'm a working manager. I think, I don't delegate everything. Part of that is, I think, I'm also of the opinion that sometimes when you want stuff done right, you got to do it yourself. Yeah. And that's not selling my staff short, because I got an amazing staff. But sometimes, I know they've got other things that they've got to finish. And so I like challenges. I like fixing things. And so for me, I roll my sleeves up and I do my own research studies sometimes. I make calls. I do my own spreadsheets. I do my own math, schedule my own meetings, because that's just who I am.
Yeah. What books do you read?
I can't read anything that's not true. So my wife is a librarian, so it makes for some very interesting conversations.
Yeah. Is she more of you're nonfiction? And she
loves fiction.
Okay.
She loves fiction. Even when it comes to TV, like turn on the History Channel, I can sit there for hours.
Oh God.
My wife is like, I can't watch this anymore.
No, I'm here with your wife on that one. What does she love to watch?
Oh gosh.
What has she pulled you into that you're surprised you
How
liked?
to Love.
How to Love.
That show with what's his name? I forget his name. He's Steve Harvey's cousin. So it's a couple
Mr.
show.
Harvey?
It's a couple show.
Okay.
And it's going through all these different couples trying to figure out who's going to pair up and all that. Surprisingly, she got me on that one.
Okay. So you guys have dinner watching some How to Love.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. I'll have to put that on my watch list for sure.
I think it's on like the 6th season or something like that.
Okay. I will look it up. As someone who came to Phoenix, I mean, it has been a while. You've been here a while.
Yeah.
But is there any must-do activity that you would recommend to any newbies?
Well, I mean, I think we at the city, we have one of the most amazing park systems in the entire country. It's large, not just our city and municipal parks, but also our open space parks. So I think, and you've got some great sunsets with the backdrop of the mountains and, the things like that. So I would encourage people to come here and check out our parks. If you're a hiker, go out and hike and explore. Just make sure you're a responsible hiker.
Yes.
I don't want to have to rescue you off the mountain in the middle of a 110-degree day. But
I know. Did you guys have a lot of calls during the waste management for
we didn't, but I was so
helicopters?
busy with Super Bowl that honestly I can't even think about waste management yet, even though I know what was happening at the same time.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was a fun time. It was a great opportunity for the city, and you guys had the Super Bowl experience down here. Did you get to go?
I did. So I took my sons to the Super Bowl experience. It was a good time. It was great seeing everyone down here.
Yeah.
Our staff worked for months on getting ready for that, and it was a great way to showcase the city and everything that we do.
I think we're definitely going to get some new residents as a result of that. It was a really well-planned event. All right. I think that's all the questions that we have for today. Okay. So, Jeff, thank you for taking the time. It's always a treat to get to spend time and chat with you. To keep up with everything that's happening in the 5th largest city in the United States, be sure to follow the City of Phoenix on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram at City of Phoenix AZ. Jeff, where's the best place for people to keep up with you and get your show recommendations?
I don't know about show recommendations, but, Phoenix.gov, we've got a lot of information out there on our website. So the next big things for us are going to council next week with our 5-year forecast, and we'll take our budget out to the community in April. We also have a big bond program that we're hoping to get the voters to pass in November of 23, which is the first time we've had a bond program in 16 years. Lots of good programs, lots of good new fire stations, park facilities, senior centers, all of those good things in that bond program. We're excited.
You're going to be a busy guy for a long time. So I'm very glad that we got the chance to catch you before things ramp up. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Closing our Black Excellence episode is Miss Latasha Causey, who was recently hired as the president of NASCAR's Phoenix Raceway. Our conversation focuses on disrupting the status quo, and you won't want to miss it. Welcome back, everyone. Closing today's episode is Latasha Causey. She recently took over as the president of NASCAR's Phoenix Raceway and has built a career on prioritized relationships and community give back. She is the first African-American in NASCAR herstory, I should say, to assume the position. Latasha has worked in recruitment and community engagement with Bell Bank, U-Haul, and USAA, some heavy hitters. She is an Arizona native who grew up in the West Valley and graduated from Arizona State University. Go Sun Devils. Latasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm a huge fan of yours. I met you briefly when you were with Bell Bank previously, and I was instantly impressed. So when we put together this episode and started brainstorming who we should have on, I immediately thought of you. I'm a huge fan of you and a huge fan of auto racing. So the fact that you're in both. My mind is blown.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes. So let's jump right in. I want to know, how did you end up in NASCAR?
Yeah.
How did you make that jump? What interested you?
Yes, well, that's a great question. So actually, the person that was there before, Julie Giese, and I met about 4 years ago when she came to Arizona. We were on a panel together. The host of the panel reached out to me prior and said, hey, there's a new lady in town. She's really great. Her name's Julie, and I would love for you to get to know her and help her build her community relationships. And of course, I was like, well, obviously, if she's a good person, I'd be happy to help her.
Yeah.
And so she's a great person, and we became quick friends. And Julie is the one who let me inside of NASCAR. Prior to 4 years ago, I had never been to a NASCAR race. And Julie let me, if you will, you get the VIP treatment, right, when you're dealing with the president. And so she let me behind the scenes of NASCAR. And truly, that is what interested me, was being able to see the people. The people that are involved in NASCAR are amazing. From the race teams to the individuals who are part of NASCAR, like the company, the organization, to sponsors. I mean, there's just so many great people involved. And so Julie reached out to me and said she was moving to Chicago to take on Chicago street racing. Yes, which is super cool. Be this July 2nd, actually. So if anybody listening that wants to go to Chicago, street racing, got to check it out. But Julie reached out to me, made that phone call and said, hey, Latasha, I think that you would be the perfect person to be my predecessor because of your, community background and your love for sports and just your love for business. And so it was Julie that reached out to say, hey, you should take a chance on this. And I was terrified, I will tell you that, because I felt like I knew, and I had been to, 4 races prior to that. I felt like I knew enough about like what the environment was like, but not the business, if you will, of NASCAR. So that's how I got there. It's Julie. It was somebody advocating for me and someone, reaching out. That was part of my network.
I love that. And it just goes to show the power of like a strong network of women, in this area.
Yes. Women supporting women, all day long. Of course, us just in general, humans supporting humans, but, there is something special about us as women supporting each other.
Absolutely. And you've been in this role for a few months now.
2 whole months.
2 whole months. Oh my goodness. So you're probably drinking from a fire hose.
100%.
And still doing your onboarding. But when you're settled somewhat, what are some of your key priorities?
Yeah, the biggest things for me, first and foremost is to get to know the race fans. NASCAR has some of the best fans around. There's nothing like them. And so one, it would be to get to know the fans. But then 2, I'm unapologetic about this, is making sure that I welcome new fans as well. So when you think about being the first African-American woman to run a racetrack, for us as Black people, we always support everything Black, right? That's just who we are, and that's what we do. And when that happens, and I've been getting a ton of support from my community, and when that happens, I want them to feel welcome coming to the racetrack. And so that's a top priority of mine. I want everyone to know that the racetrack is for them. And I think that those are probably my 2 biggest things. But you mentioned it earlier, I'm a huge community advocate as well. So I do want to start getting kids involved in racing, motorsports, sports in general early. There are kids that live, basically at the racetrack, within miles of the racetrack and never been there before. So I want to create special experiences for them and their families as well.
I love that. And there's so many career paths in auto racing, from engineering to chemistry is somehow involved, and then business management. So there's so many opportunities for kids to get involved. I love that.
Yes. When you think about, like you said, racing as a whole, when you think about STEM, right? So everything STEM is related to the racetrack. But then when you think about sports and sporting, and we are an entertainment business, and that's what we're doing. And so when you think about even kids just getting involved in creating such an experience, like, a weekend full of racing, getting involved in that as well. Do you want to be in sports? Because those skills are transferable to any other sport industry as well.
Absolutely. And one thing that being a fan of auto racing, I would love to learn more about NASCAR. Yeah. Are there any misconceptions about NASCAR that you heard all the time, that once you started going to the races and you assumed this new position, that are not true?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. You'll find some people that, say, "Oh, like what are you watching?" Right? Like, I mean, it's loud, all those things. It is loud. It's a sound, right? That's the vibe, right? That's the environment, which is a great environment. That's why you have earplugs. Yeah. But you go and you experience it. But with NASCAR, I guess I didn't really know from the beginning that it's unlike any other sport, because it's like a family. So basically, you go to a NASCAR race and you can experience everything, including the drivers. Like when you go to football or basketball, you have your seat and you sit in your seat. Yeah. And that's really what you do, right? And you enjoy and you watch the game. That's just the environment. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. But then when you come to NASCAR, you can go infield, you can go, camping. A lot of our campers will come the whole week and experience it. And some of them don't even actually go to the race, right? They're just there for the vibe, right? For the environment. And then you also have like your crews, if you will, like your driver, their, mechanics. You talked a little bit about mechanics earlier. And so we have garages that are open, if you will, to our race fans. And so you could be walking around with the driver. You could be talking to a mechanic that's working on a car that was just on the track. So, if you will, when you ask about misconceptions, it's just this thing of, in the beginning, I thought it was you just kind of go in the grandstand and you just sit and you watch, but that's really not what it is. I mean, it's a whole total experience, everything from camping to experiencing an actual driver.
That's awesome. I want to go to one so bad.
Yes, you have to come. You do. So we have our first race. My first race is coming up really soon.
Oh, I'm there, girl.
Yes, March 10th through the 12th.
Okay.
So it will be real fast. So yes, I hope that you will definitely come.
I will.
Yes.
Count me in. And switching things a little bit more back to the sports industry in general. I have friends who work in like sports tech. It is so homogenous, so white, very male dominated. Why do you think it's taking? I mean, we've made some progress, obviously, with you being in this new role. That's a huge progression. But why do you think it's taken so long for the sports industry to kind of move the needle?
Yeah, well, and I think it's every industry to move the needle, right?
You're
Because
right.
I mean, you think about women who are CEOs. There's not that many, right? And there's not that many women of color that are CEOs either. I mean, I think it's just a sign of where we are, who we are. While we've come a very long way in so many places, we have a long way to go still, right? And I think it takes, those white males that you mentioned, it takes them to advocate. It takes others who are not a person of color to advocate for a person of color and give them the opportunity. Sometimes I think we have to get out of our network of, everybody, you get comfortable, right? You're in your space. Like when you think about your replacement as the CEO, or you think about your replacement as the VP of sales or whatever it is, you're like, oh, my friend so-and-so could do that, or somebody that's in my network. But that network probably came from the same school as you did, probably, looks similar to you because that's your comfort zone, right? And so I think that we, are still in this space because we operate in a comfort zone. And so we have to get out of that zone. And I certainly commend NASCAR for that. NASCAR, our headquarters is in Daytona. And we do have a wide range of individuals in top leadership positions that are people of color, serving in multiple roles, whether it's legal, whether it's human resources. NASCAR made a commitment to that of hiring the right person, but making sure, we have a diversity driver program, a diversity internship program, and we're very purposeful and intentional about you have to be a person of color in order to be in any of those programs. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies, they might say, can I say that I can be intentional by hiring a person of color? Yes, you can.
Yes.
There's goodness in being intentional.
Yes.
And switching a little bit to a personal question. So I know what it's like to be in a homogenous industry as well. Commercial real estate is very male dominated, and there's not a lot of people of color. How do you navigate the space of being one of, and advocating for your voice that is sometimes a little bit different than your peers in the room? Yeah,
it's often a little bit different than the peers in the room, right? Honestly, for me, I've my entire career, I have just been in a position of I'm probably just one of, sometimes the youngest, sometimes the only woman, sometimes the only person of color. Then I'm a woman and a woman of color, right? So I'm always like in this category of one of those things. But honestly, I learned a long time ago to be comfortable in my own skin and just be comfortable with who I am. And so I walk into every space and just as Latasha Causey, right? And I know I belong there. And so I leverage and use my voice. I leverage and use my skill, right? I mean, there's something to be said about education. I know you mentioned me graduating from ASU, but when you graduate, that's not it, right? And so you have to continuously educate yourself and continuously grow and build. And so, when I walk into the room, when I walk into the space, I just know that I'm supposed to be there. And I just show up as me every time. And it's worked out so far really well for me.
Yes.
And I'd like to continue to do that. But I'd also like to be able to create environments. So anytime, I have the opportunity to create an environment for someone else to use their voice, no matter who they are, I want to be able to do that and continue to do that as well.
And who are some of the people you look up to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there are a variety of people that I look up to, whether it's, previous leaders. I've come from some very heavy hitting companies and had some great leaders there. I feel like I've taken a piece of something from everywhere. Every opportunity that you've had along the way, you've learned something. You've learned something, whether it's good or bad. I feel like I have taken a piece from each of those spaces. And so For me, I have multiple leaders from other organizations that I look up to. I definitely have a mentorship network, right? And there, I have mentors and advocates, right? So there's a difference between those. And then as well, I serve heavily on multiple, boards, and there are a lot of people that are part of my board networks as well. That, you just take like little bits and pieces from other people to say, wow, I really like the way you do that. Whether it's their leadership, whether it's the way they are with people. I just try to, if you will, soak it all in and soak in all of the experiences that I receive.
Absolutely. And I tend to ask this of people that I admire. What advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, when I was younger, I wasn't as confident, right? I wasn't as, here I am, walk into the space. I was a little bit more quiet. No one would believe that.
I would not.
But I was, we all grow and we all evolve. And, I would say, to my younger self of, just keep working, keep pushing, right? And, keep using your voice, right? Let it come out, right? As it's, as you're a little bit quiet now, one day it will come out, and one day it will come out for good. And so, back in the day, I would think like, oh, I'll just do something regular. I don't know what that even meant, right? Like I also would tell my younger self, like, you don't have to have it all figured out either. I started working very young in a corporate environment, and I think because of that, I was always in this space of like, I have to plan for everything. I have to be ready for everything. I didn't necessarily like slow down enough to enjoy being young. And so, I would have probably told myself, like, just take a second and enjoy it, chill out, like soak it all in. But, at the same time, all of that hard work, led me to where I am today. And so sometimes I have to remind myself today to take a moment to slow down and appreciate, the people who are around you, the real ones, right, that are in your circle, your family members, your friends that you've had, and new friends that you develop along the way. I tell my kids all the time, I have 11 and a 15-year-old, and, they're getting these little things with their friends. And I tell them, like, one day, probably like when you're 20, they're not even going to be your friend anymore, right? And so you have to be okay with that. And I feel like you develop some of your better friends like later in life.
Absolutely.
So I'd say it's okay. Like if you lose your best friend at 16, it's okay. You're gonna find when you get older, you're gonna find somebody even better. So
I 100% agree. I've made some of my best friends since moving here to Phoenix, and they're adult friends.
Yes.
So that's great advice. Have you gotten into a NASCAR yet? Have you driven one?
Of course. So I haven't driven a car yet. I've been definitely in one. I go around the track often. Love to invite you to come out to the track as well. We do pace car rides around the track. And so we do have cars that are there that we go around, and it is a great experience. And it obviously depends on who your driver is too, on how scary it's going to be or not.
Okay.
But it's really, really fun. So yes,
we need to get Chris Camacho
100%
out on the track in a helmet. I need like a full suit as well.
A full suit, absolutely. So Chris Camacho is going to come out here soon. I think we have something on the calendar, and so I have been already thinking in my mind. Like I can't decide if I like it, I don't want to give it away on the podcast, right? So
I need photo evidence of him in this car.
Yes.
And we're going to plaster it everywhere around the office.
Everywhere. Yeah. I'll make sure, got to mess up his hair a little bit with the helmet. So we'll put make sure he has the suit on over his business suit, all the things.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And with like messy hair, I don't even know if I can imagine.
Right?
That.
Exactly.
He's so well put together.
He's always so well put together.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
As an Arizona native, what hidden gem for our listeners would you recommend any newbie or visitor to go?
Like restaurant-wise or anything?
Anything.
Well, some of my favorite things in Arizona, I'll just name a few things.
Okay, go for it.
So one, in terms of restaurants, I love Chelsea's Kitchen.
Yes.
Chelsea's Kitchen is my favorite, and I don't think that while it's not per se a hidden gem, it kind of is. If you're not, it's not a chain, right? It's local. I love all things local. Another one of my hidden gems is Fair Trade Cafe. I love Fair Trade.
Fair Trade is so good.
It's so good, and ran by a Latina. Yes, Stephanie's from the West Valley as well.
Okay.
She's amazing, and so I just love supporting. Love supporting all things local. The other thing I would say, like Arizona just has so much to offer, right? We're down here in the city, it gets hot, all of those types of things. In the summer, I love to go to Pine Top, Arizona. It's just a few hours north. You know, a lot of people go to Sedona or Flagstaff. Those are also very, very great. But go to Pine Top.
Pine Top.
Yeah, you gotta look it up, Google it. It's just like woodsy.
Is it like campy? Like you go camping up there?
I'm not a camper.
Me either.
Okay, so not like an outside camper. I do like
You glamp.
I glamp. Okay, I do cabins and Airbnbs, things like
I
that.
love a lodge.
Yeah, like that, right?
Yeah.
That's what Pine Top has to offer.
Okay.
But it depends. Like if you like to be outside, I love to be outside. I actually like to fish, and so things like that you could do up there. Pine Top, Arizona. It's super cool, and I don't know. I don't feel like. I shouldn't have told everyone because now everybody's going to go to Pine Top. But
I know. I'll get in early. I'll try to get up there before the crowds. But
yeah, the summertime is a good time to be there. Yeah, because it's cooler.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a delight. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast and kind of just telling us a little bit more about you and where can people find you?
Yes, well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me and for doing this podcast. I'm everywhere, but I always say, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I usually connect with most people there as well. Check out the Phoenix Raceway page. Again, as I mentioned, we have 2 races coming up, March 10th through the 12th. And then again, we host the championship weekend as well, which is the first weekend in November. The championship weekend is the end of the season celebration. That's the crown champion of NASCAR for the season, and we host it here in Arizona. And so this is our 3rd year hosting. And so we, talk about economics. I mean, we bring people from all over the place to experience such a phenomenal race. So I say check out the Raceway page. Check me out on LinkedIn as well. We also have all your social media handles. I just created an Instagram. My team created an Instagram account for it's a Phoenix Raceway Prez.
Okay.
They thought it was funny. I thought it was cute. So we're going to go with it. So follow me there as well.
All righty. Well, now you guys know where to follow Latasha. Tim is back in a couple of short weeks discussing Roosevelt Row and its transformation over the last 20 years. Do me and our guests a favor and be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. Also, if you are so inclined, please rate us 5 stars and leave a comment. To keep up with what's happening in Greater Phoenix, follow GPEC at Greater Phoenix PHX on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, be safe and well. Cheers.